Hello, everyone. We're gonna start this with a couple practices, two different ones. So if you could maybe move to the edge of your seat, have your feet grounded, back, neck, and head aligned, and I welcome you to close your eyes. And you can grab your right ankle and take your leg behind your head. Just kidding. We like to keep it light when we teach yoga and mindfulness. Bending and stretching is good because, as Dr. Bessel van der Kolk talked about in his book, Body Keeps the Score, trauma gets stored in the body. And the way to release it is physical practice. It's not putting your leg behind your head, but, a lot of other postures, bending and stretching that you do in yoga and other contemplative practice. But these are silent reflections. The first one is a silent reflection on the breath. And so for real this time, if you could sit with your feet grounded, back, neck, and head aligned, and I welcome you to close your eyes. If you feel comfortable enough, if you don't feel comfortable, you can soften your gaze, closing your eyes 9/10 of the way, or you can keep your eyes open and focus on a point, but we recommend that you close your eyes to limit the distractions. All the breathing is going to be done in and out through our nose. And we're going to take a couple deep breaths together. So everyone inhale long, slow, and deep through your nose, filling your stomach up with air like it's a balloon. Fill it all the way up. And exhale, push all that air out. Once again through your nose, letting your belly fall, squeezing your belly button to your spine. Inhale deep again, long, slow, deep breath through your nose, filling your stomach up with air like it's a balloon. Fill it all the way up. And then exhale through your nose, long, slow, deep breath, letting your belly fall, squeezing your belly button to your spine. Inhale deep one more time with that long, slow, deep breath through your nose, filling your stomach up with air like it's a balloon. Fill it all the way up. And exhale through your nose, push all that air out. Let your belly fall. Now you all can just breathe on your own at a nice natural pace. Don't put any effort into it. Just make sure you're breathing in and out through your nose. And like I said, this is a silent reflection on the breath. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to feel the breath. We're going to feel that air enter through our nostrils and spread throughout our body on that inhale. We're also going to feel the rising of our belly. And then we're going to, on that exhale, we're going to feel the falling of the belly, and we're going to feel all that air exit our body out of our nostrils. So all we're paying attention to is the feeling of the breath. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to listen to the breath. No matter how loud or how soft your individual breath is, that's all we're going to pay attention to is how the breath sounds. And see if you can notice that it's a different sound on that inhale than it is on the exhale. But once again, all we're going to do is focus on the sound of the breath. All right, lastly, we're going to focus our mind on the breath. And the way that we're going to do that is by feeling the breath and hearing the breath. Once again, to feel the breath, we're going to feel that air into our nostrils on that inhale. And we're also going to feel the rising of our belly on that inhale. And we're going to feel the falling of our belly on that exhale. And we're going to feel the air exiting our body out of our nostrils also. And then we're also going to listen to our breath. We're going to listen to our individual breath, listen to if we can hear the difference between the inhale and exhale. And, don't worry about how loud or how soft it is. Just listen to your breath. Once again, listen to your breath, and feeling the breath is the way that you focus your mind on the breath. All right, we're going to slowly bring ourselves away from the breath and back to our body. So you can just start by wiggling your toes and fingers, rolling your ankles and wrists. Do a neck roll both ways just to stretch your neck out. And then slowly blink your eyes open and come back to your senses. All right. Like I said, we're going to do 2 practices. That was the first one, the silent reflection on the breath. Hello, Alexandra. Um, this next one is a variation of a loving kindness practice. So, once again, if y'all could sit with your feet grounded, back, neck, and head aligned. I welcome you to close your eyes. Once again, if you don't feel comfortable enough, just soften your gaze, closing your eyes 9/10 of the way, or you can leave your eyes open. It's completely up to you. But once again, the suggestion is to close your eyes if you feel comfortable, just to limit your distractions. And we're going to go into it the same way, taking a couple deep breaths in and out through our nose together. So everyone inhale long, slow, and deep through your nose, filling your stomach up with air like it's a balloon, fill it all the way up. And exhale through your nose, push all that air out. Let your belly fall, push all that air out, squeezing your belly button to your spine. Inhale deep again through your nose, that long, slow, deep breath, filling your stomach up with air like it's a balloon. Fill it all the way up. And exhale through your nose, push all that air out, letting your belly fall, squeezing your belly button to your spine. Inhale deep one more time through your nose, filling your stomach up with air like it's a balloon. Fill it all the way up. And exhale, push all that air out through your nose, squeezing your stomach in, belly button to your spine. Once again, you can just breathe on your own at a nice natural pace. Don't put any effort into it. Just once again, make sure that you're breathing in and out through your nose. And we're going to start using our imaginations. With every inhale, we want to feel and see ourselves pulling in all the positivity that the earth has to offer us inside our body with that in-breath. Whatever that looks and feels like to you, feel and see that as you inhale. And with every exhale, we want to feel and see ourselves pushing out the negativity from within, any stress, any anger, any sicknesses or ailments, any resentment or jealousy, anything at all that's inside of us that we know that's not healthy for us. We want to use our imaginations and see and feel it leave our body with that out breath. So once again, on that inhale, pulling in that positivity from the earth, and on that exhale, pushing out that negativity from within. Whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. And just like in life, distractions can arise when you try to do a silent reflection meditation or a loving kindness practice. Just that's the nature of the human mind. Never beat yourself up. Have empathy towards yourself. Acknowledge the distraction, whether it's a thought, sound, or sensation. Don't fight with it. Let it pass naturally. And when it does pass, ground yourself back with the breath. And once again, with every inhale, pulling in that positivity from the earth. And with every exhale, pushing out that negativity from within, that stress and anger, that jealousy, resentment, sicknesses or ailments. Once again, anything at all that's inside of you that you know that's not healthy for you, use your imagination and see and feel it leave your body with the breath. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time, with every inhale, we want to feel and see ourselves pulling in all the healing oxygen from the trees, plants, and bodies of water. And we want to feel and see it energize and replenish our internal muscles, bones, and organs. So with every inhale, feel and see that happen. And with every exhale, we want to feel and see ourselves pushing out the stale carbon dioxide, feeding the trees and plants that gave us oxygen. Once again, with every inhale, pulling in that healing oxygen, energizing our muscles, bones, and organs. And with every exhale, pushing out that stale carbon dioxide, feeding the trees and plants that gave us oxygen. And the beauty of this practice, there is no right or wrong, there just is. So whatever it looks and feels like to you, feel and see that as you breathe. And this practice is all about extending the time or the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. If you lose focus after 3 breaths, once again, have empathy towards yourself, knowing that it's the nature of the human mind to get distracted. Acknowledge the distraction, let it pass naturally. Bring yourself back or anchor yourself back with the breath. And then try to get 4 breaths, then 5 breaths. Once again, it's all about extending the time or the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. It's less of a battle with yourself than it is a play, but definitely try to extend the time or the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. And right now, we're focused with every inhale, pulling in that healing oxygen, energizing our muscles, bones, and organs. And with every exhale, pushing out that stale carbon dioxide, feeding the trees and plants that gave us oxygen. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time, we're going to focus on all of our loved ones, whether family or friends, no matter how far away they live, no matter if they're living or not. Love knows no boundaries. So with our breath, all we're going to focus on is sending love to our loved ones with that breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. Sending our loved ones love with our breath. And just another reminder, if you do get distracted, have empathy towards yourself, never beat yourself up, just understanding that that's the nature of the human mind. Whatever does distract you, thought, sound, or sensation, just acknowledge it. Don't fight with it, let it pass naturally. And when it does pass, once again, anchor yourself back with that breath. And once again, as you breathe, we're sending love to our loved ones with our breath. Whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. And always just know there is no right or wrong, there just is with this practice. So once again, whatever you feel and see, feel confident. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time, we're going to focus on all those people that stress us out or make us angry, whether it's family or friends, coworkers or clients, people in our community, politicians, whoever it is that gets under your skin, stresses you out, makes you angry. We're going to send them love too with our breath. Even though they stress us out or make us angry, they probably need love more than anyone else. And we all know whatever you put out there comes back tenfold. So always lead with love. So once again, with our breath, all we're focused on is sending love to those people that stress us out or make us angry. We're sending them love with our breath. This is a great way to evict people from renting space in your mind, or in other words, a release. So once again, with our breath, all we're doing is sending love to those people that stress us out or make us angry. We're sending them love with our breath. Whatever that looks and feels like to you, just feel and see that as we breathe. And also understanding that this is all about extending the time or the amount of breaths that you can remain focused, and always have empathy towards yourself if you do lose focus. But once again, remember, it's all about extending the time or the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And we've sent love to people that we love. We've sent love to people that stress us out and make us angry. Now it's time to send love to the most important person in your life, and that's yourself. If you start off with your inner foundation full of self-love and taking care of yourself, it makes it that much easier to love and take care of others going forward without burning yourself out. So with our breath, all we're focused on is sending our self-love with that breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe, sending our self-love with the breath. And once again, if you do get distracted, always practice empathy towards yourself. Just acknowledge that distraction, thought, sound, or sensation. Don't fight with it, let it pass naturally. And once again, just anchor yourself back on that breath. And once again, sending yourself love with that breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. Beauty of this practice is if you do lose focus, you can always begin again. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time with our breath, we're going to send love to planet Earth or Mother Earth and all the inhabitants that reside within, animals, plants, humans, inanimate objects, anything at all that resides within planet Earth or Mother Earth and Mother Earth herself. We're going to send love with our breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. Sending love to planet Earth or Mother Earth and all the inhabitants that reside within with our breath. And just feel, confident in yourself. There is no right or wrong. There just is with this practice. So once again, we're sending love to planet Earth or Mother Earth and all the inhabitants that reside within, animals, plants, humans, inanimate objects, anything at all that resides within planet Earth or Mother Earth and Mother Earth herself. We're sending love with our breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, just feel and see that as you breathe. All right, we're going to slowly bring ourselves away from the breath and back to our bodies. So once again, we're just going to start off wiggling our toes, can wiggle our fingers, can roll your ankles and wrists. You can do a neck roll both ways just to stretch your neck out a little bit. And then whenever you get ready, you can slowly blink your eyes open and come back to your senses. All right. Hopefully y'all enjoyed those two practices. Just a question for you all, and you all can unmute yourself and answer it. Did y'all notice any difference between the two practices? No pressure. You're not getting graded. I'll give y'all maybe until 2:40 to answer the question. Just reflect on it. Was there any difference? Ali, you know the answer. If nobody answers by 2:40, I'll call on you, Ali. Because there was a huge difference between the two practices. I mean, not even just that they were two different practices, but the way that I led the practices were a little different.
I was kind of ironically distracted a bit by some work stuff, but I feel like the imagination part really expands yourself a little more outside of your body.
That's a great answer. Anybody else? Ali, do you have an answer?
Was it the amount of empty space in the two meditations?
Boom, you nailed it there, bro. So if y'all may have not have noticed, but the first practice, there was a lot of silence in me leading the practice. The second one, there was no silence at all. Um, a lot of people do more damage than good when they do these practices because they do have a lot of silence in these meditations or silent reflections, whatever you want to call it. And communities that deal with trauma, which is everybody now, going through the pandemic and what's going on in the news, everybody's dealing with trauma. um, the space in the practice allows the trauma to actually come up, but in the second practice you'll notice that there was no space whatsoever. So it was like, I was like the designated driver driving you all towards your destination and not allowing your mind to really go here, there, and everywhere. Like Ren said, you were able to kind of really use your imagination and go. And that's, one of the ways that you can make these practices trauma informed and more healing than hurting to, the communities that you're working with. And two, there's this, we've been blessed to hang out with a lot of the world's most renowned neuroscientists. And, one thing that they always used to talk about was neuroplasticity and, the way that people can rewire their brains and you're not stuck in a certain way of thinking. But that comes with changing your habit patterns. One thing that we've seen with this practice, actually two things. One, a lot of people ask these kids to kind of worry about their community, their friends, their environment. And that's impossible if they don't care about themselves. A lot of our kids don't really have empathy towards them, or they don't have love of self. And, in the practice where you're sent, or the part of the practice where you're sending love to yourself, is building that inner foundation full of self-love, which a lot of kids don't have. And what we've seen is, it changes our kids, not overnight, but in time, from, just worrying about themselves and surviving to worrying about the community. In the beginning of our programs, we may have to be those ones breaking up fights. But when the kids develop love for themselves, they develop empathy towards others, and they're the ones that kind of break up, chaos in our program. They form communities, and that's something that's really needed in Baltimore. Because asking people to care about others and people don't care about themselves, that's madness. And then secondly, the part where we get where I was talking about loving those people or sending love to those people that stress you out and make you angry. A lot of the people that we work with don't have any skills to peacefully resolve conflicts. So that's why they don't. But this is a skill that we've seen our kids who resort to their fists to resolve conflict in time. They can just, like I said, evict people from renting space in their mind and just send those people love and forget about it. Like, it's been so many different times kids in our program are like, you know what, that person tried to get under my skin, but all I do is send them love and I don't even think about them no more. So, imagine if that was rampant in Baltimore, where people didn't let their ego get involved and get themselves and react to things, and which usually gets people into trouble, and they responded to things and let things fall off like a scab. So, that's just, the couple of points that we wanted to point out with the two different ways that we practice and the healing benefits to trauma of especially that second practice. Ali, if you want to jump in.
I would love to jump in. These practices, mindfulness, yoga, breathwork, meditation, are meant to heal trauma, but they have to be done in the right way. A lot of times, like Ottman was saying, a lot of people do more harm than good with the practices because they don't really know what they're doing. I can't say that we always did. I remember when we first got started with teaching yoga and mindfulness in schools. This was like March. Actually, it's about 20 years ago. March of 2002 was when we started. And I think we thought a lot of, like, there's a lot of bad kids in this class because we had never really worked with kids before. And then I think as time went on, we started to see that there was something deeper going on than just behavior issues. We noticed that I think it was one student in particular who was living with his foster grandmother. He had a lot of things going on, and he wouldn't close his eyes during the meditations. And back then we were like, you have to close your eyes to meditate. So he would do all the yoga, he'd do all the breath work, and he would get put out of class. He would make sure he got put out of the after school program for the meditation so he didn't have to do it. One day we dropped him off at home, went in, and just saw the conditions that he was living in, and saw that there was like something else going on that was deeper. We didn't have the word trauma for it at the time. Trauma informed, trauma responsive weren't really things that were said or talked about at that point, but we knew that there was something more going on where we had to like build this trust with him and get him more comfortable so they would feel more comfortable closing his eyes and meditating. So I think a lot of the times that when people see behavior issues in kids, they're not really behavior issues because, you know, a traumatized brain functions a lot differently than a normal brain. You know, like you don't have access to your prefrontal cortex or those higher functions of your brain. Your prefrontal cortex becomes really hypoactive, I'm sorry, inaccessible, and your amygdala becomes hyperactive, and the amygdala is what kind of starts that fight or flight response. And you know, when you don't have access to your prefrontal cortex, your brain is in survival mode. So that's all those executive functions that help you to quote unquote behave are out the window because your body can't access them. It's not that you don't want to, it's that you can't. Increased impulsivity, decreased emotional control, decreased self-awareness, definitely decreased self-regulation happen when you don't have access to executive function. All these things happen when you've been highly traumatized. Your brain is just wired differently and functions differently. But like Atman said, your brain is made to rewire itself, but you just need the skills to be able to do it. A lot of people get caught in your autonomic nervous system has two sides. It has its rest state and a stress state, parasympathetic and sympathetic dominance. Parasympathetic is that rest state that you should be living in all the time. Sympathetic is where people get caught up and a lot of people don't know how to get out of it. The stress state is good. I mean, it can save your life in some instances, but most of the time, like when you get caught in that stress state, it slowly starts to kill you. Your increased blood pressure, that cortisol is pumping through your body, leads to ulcers. You're constantly breathing with that shallow chest breathing, and you're not getting enough, you're not oxygenating or cleaning your blood as it's going through your body. So there's a lot of negative impacts of that. And then like, you know, I know we've definitely been working in schools, and a kid might walk down the hall and like somebody's walking too close to them and they punch him. Like they hit him real hard. And like, I feel like it mostly happens in elementary schools. But you know, they might hit the kid and then we pull them over to the side and we're working with them like, what did you do that for him? Like, I don't know. And the thing is, they don't know because when the body's been traumatized, the vagus nerve doesn't function properly. And the vagus nerve is that connection between your mind and your brain. And it also has to do with threat regulation and threat perception. So like, just because that other kid walked by them closely, they perceive it as a threat, even though it wasn't really a threat. They were just walking past them in a crowded hall. And then because there's not that connection between their mind and body, their body just reacted by hitting that other kid. And, you know, like that's just something that happens. But the good thing is, I think the beautiful thing about all this is once you identify that it is trauma, if you can find the right people to show you, your body and your brain are meant to heal themselves. Like Atman said, trauma gets stored in the body. That's where it starts off at. I never realized how much as we were teaching at a retreat center. I can't remember, it was one of them in New York. I don't know if it was Omega or Garrison, but there was a guy who had been in the Korean War, Vietnam War. He had been in the Vietnam War, and he had been, you know, he was prisoner of war. He got abused with like a bamboo stick, like on his legs. He got beaten with it, and he said he didn't really realize how much trauma was stored in his body until one day he went to talk therapy, and he was talking about the situation for the first time in his life, and the bruises actually started to come up on his body from whenever he was back in the war, and this wasn't that long ago. You know what I mean? So like like Dr. Bessel van der Kolk says, like the issues are in the tissues, like the issues are in your body when you are dealing with trauma. So the first thing you really have to do with kids that we're working with, because they got to be able to have somewhere they can go for peace. A lot of people are living in outer chaos, whether it's in their home, in their community, with the stimuli they're putting into themselves, whether it's social media, the news, whatever. Like there's just a lot of places for chaos. So people need somewhere to go inside of them for inner peace, and it's there and it's waiting, but you have to be able to show people a safe way to get to it. And you can't just start off. We've definitely had a lot of people in the years we've been doing this ask us, well, like, well, how come when I teach kids how to meditate, they come out crying? And I'm like, well, what are you doing? Like, well, we just get them to sit in silence. And that's never going to work. Like, you got to make that, like when Atman was leading you all through those two meditation practices, the second one that he did, that love and kindness practice without any breaks in it, is the way that we would teach. because like you don't want like if you have that empty space, it's space for that trauma to come up. So it has to be a peaceful, safe space inside of them that they're guided through. Like Atma said, he was like the driver driving us through that meditation. So like you have to be able to guide them all the way through from beginning to end. And you know, loving they can have that inner peace, but it's a safe place of inner peace. It's not just that scary place where they're just sitting alone with their thoughts and all that stuff is starting to come up. To make the body a safe space, the first thing we all need, and you have to start there. You can't start. A lot of people want to start with talk therapy, but you know, you got to start with the body first. At least in the work that we've done, we've seen you have to start with the body first. And yoga is a great way to actually make the body a safe space. There's a thing called proprioceptive input, and it's the way that your body sends messages to your brain, whether it's through your skin, your joints, your muscles. And imagine if that message constantly being sent by your body to your brain was fear. And that's a huge part of what's going on with people who have been traumatized, is a fear message constantly being sent from their body to their brain. So the body isn't a safe space. So you have to be able to figure out ways to do that. And that proprioceptive input plays a huge role in self-regulation. Like you can't expect someone to regulate themselves if their body is constantly telling them they should be in fear. One of the beautiful things about yoga is it puts people in the present moment as they're practicing. So they feel safe in that moment and they're not being caught in that traumatic event and being sent fear to their brain. So like they slowly start to get those safe moments. They get a safe moment during the practice. Those safe moments become longer. And then, you know, finally, after a while, their body becomes a safe space for them to start to function. And then you can start to move through things. A lot of people want to do adjustments when they're doing yoga, but that doesn't really work because particularly for people who've been traumatized. Like I know in the 20 years we've been doing this, Amin and I have never done an adjustment to somebody. It's one of those things that we allow them to express. We might give a gentle reminder of like, hey, you might want to straighten your back out. Hey, make sure you're breathing deep. We don't actually physically move anybody. One, because some people aren't comfortable with being touched. Even if you ask them, they might say yeah. But if you're actually moving them, it's taking away their power because you want them to be able to express the pose in a way that's comfortable for them, in a safe way, but a way that's comfortable for them. So you got to be able to do all that. Giving choices is another way that you can help people when you're using these practices and you want them to have that space for inner peace. You notice Atman didn't tell you to close your eyes. He welcomed you to close your eyes or suggested that you close your eyes. Telling someone to close their eyes, we found out the hard way doesn't work. So just make suggestions and give them choices. One of the most impactful things we do is we use a reciprocal teaching model where we bring the kids up to the front to teach. Again, it's all about empowerment. Most people who have had a traumatic situation go on, not all, but most of them have had their power taken away in some way, shape, or fashion. So if you can actually bring them to the front of the room with the skills to be able to do these things, it changes their entire life. I mean, they also own the practice and they're more likely to share it with someone else, but they got to be able to own it. And when they're in the front of the room, they feel that power and it starts to lift them up and help them to heal. So Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, who is speaking at the conference, we had him on our podcast and we're talking to him and we were asking him like, what was the most important thing to help people heal trauma? Like, is there any, he was like, well, there's only one thing that can heal people from all their trauma, except for like traumatic brain injuries, like that type of trauma. But he was like, there's only one thing that can do it. And you guys already do it. And we were like, well, what is it? The yoga, the breathing, the meditation? Like, what are you talking about? He was like, no, it's the love, man. Like, if you treat someone with love, that's the easiest way and most powerful way to heal trauma. And it's something that we felt for a while, but to hear the world-renowned expert on trauma say it to you gives a little more backing and makes you feel a little more confident. And that's the way that you deliver the practice and embody it, or try to embody it as much as you can when you're working with the people you're working with. Atman touched on this also. Another thing that you have to do is get them to connect to themselves. A lot of people are totally disconnected from their inner life, and there's all these things going on inside, whether it's emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. Like they're just totally disconnected, and there's nothing they can do to connect to that, and they're only connected to their physical environment, which is very limiting and can be hopeless and can feel kind of hopeless for some people and make them very angry for things that they don't have access to. But when you do connect people to themselves, it's like if the light bulb goes off, like they're connected to themselves and they see how they're connected to everyone else. then they start to see how they're connected to something bigger than just their neighborhood, how they're connected to the world. Then they start to try to achieve different things. And I mean, like without fail, like whatever group of students we work with, you can tell the kids to get into the practice versus the kids that don't by the way that they are maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, because of what they're doing with their lives and that place of peace that they always have inside of them to fall back on, that they're connected to. There's a couple other things, then we'll give you all a couple minutes for questions. I guess the only other things are around an inner resource. Like you don't want people to be dependent upon something else to for their inner peace. A lot of people self-medicate. They might go to drugs, they might go to alcohol, they might go to food, they might go to an unsafe relationship. There's a lot of different things that people might go to kind of self-medicate. But the one thing the one beautiful thing about these practices, these mindfulness, yoga, contemplative practices, are that they're all healing on a lot of different levels, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. They're all healing, but it's a matter of being able to know how to access them and having someone that can show you how to access them in the right way for where you are. Because, and I think the hardest part is actually putting them into practice, because we spend like years of our life dealing with things in a certain way, whether it's stress, whether it's anger, whether it's depression, whether it's frustration, whatever it is, we have ways that we've been shown to deal with, or that we've learned to deal with it, and they're our coping tools. And the hardest part is to actually put one of these things that you learn into practice in your real life, whether it's a breath, whether it's a meditation, whether it's a mindfulness practice, whether it's whatever. I mean, just there's all these different things that you can use. But once you figure out how to use them in your real life and you actually start to, that's when that shift starts to happen. And people know, like kids, adults, seniors, no matter who we're working with, most of them have that light bulb. Some of them never do. I mean, it's not going to be everybody, but the ones that do have that light bulb moment, it changes the way that they see everything, because they're like, wow, I'm actually in control of all of this. Like that autonomic nervous system, like your body should be able to freely flow back and forth from sympathetic, that stress state, to parasympathetic, that relaxed state, and easily, because the sympathetic state is the one that helps you when you're in those situations. And we live in Baltimore, like stuff happens. Like you got to be able to go over to that sympathetic side of your nervous system, where the blood goes to from your external organs to your inner organs. Your eyes start to dilate, adrenaline, cortisol start flowing. You start breathing through your mouth. Your heart starts beating a little faster in case you got to fight or flight. Fight or flight. I mean, I guess there's freeze, fawn, all that. They had to keep adding stuff to it, but fight or flight mostly. And your body is preparing you to be able to do that, but you can't get stuck over there. You got to be able to go back and forth. And that's what these practices are about, being able to go back and forth. And we're not asking people to, I think one of the best things about this practice is that's not asking you to just be aloof and have your head in the clouds. Like there's a difference between hypervigilance and calm awareness. Like hypervigilance is what a lot of people have. It's that stress state of like constantly looking over your shoulder and looking around, like trying to be aware of everything, but it's kind of defeating the purpose. When you can get into a mindfulness practice, it's not like you're floating through the sky, like your feet are grounded, like you're aware of what's going on, but it's also a calm awareness, like a state of being where you actually have greater awareness because you're actually more calm than you are stressed out. So yeah, that's pretty much. Does anybody have any questions? I think we have time for probably a question. If anybody has one, you can just unmute yourself or put it in the chat, whatever you want to do.
And if y'all don't have any questions, we must have just nailed this presentation.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, thank y'all for presenting. That was really wonderful. I got some good things to think about.
Awesome. We're glad.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Sam.
Yeah. And I guess we never introduced ourselves.
Oh, damn.
We are I'm Ali Smith. I'm one of the co-founders of the Holistic Life Foundation.
And I'm Ottman Smith. We're brothers. I'm one of the other this is 2 out of the 3 founders of Holistic Life Foundation.
We just jump right on in. All right, y'all, it's 3:00. We're gonna respect you all's time. Thank you all for attending, and enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of the conference.
All right, peace, y'all.
Yeah. Y'all too. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.